and just want to introduce everyone. First, Justin Burks is a Senior Water Conservation Specialist with the Santa Clara Valley Water District, aka Valley Water. He specializes in indoor water use efficiency, gray water reuse, and landscape water use management. Justin has extensive knowledge and experience in promoting healthy soils and ecological restoration, and he leverages that to support a more resilient, sustainable water supply locally. He's a certified graywater installer and a water use efficiency practitioner, grade 2. Just want to move on to Kyle. Is a water resource specialist for the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, aka BAWSCA. He plays an integral role in BAWSCA's water conservation efforts and in BAWSCA's efforts to oversee SFPUC water supply planning, operation, and maintenance activities associated with the regional water system. Kyle assists also with the administration of grant-funded projects and agency-funded conservation programs, of which there are many. His general duties include consultant management, budget preparation assistance, support in the development of BAWSCA board materials, project status updates to staff and stakeholders, and sharing details of projects being worked on for the water customer. And then in addition, because he just has so much spare time, he provides technical and analytical support for BAWSCA's water resources activities, assist in the implementation of water use efficiency programs, and communicates these programs to the membership to promote acceptance. He's also an alum of Cal Water, as well. But which brings us to Kim Springer. He's a transportation systems coordinator at CCAG, which is one of the more unknown acronyms in the area. It's the City County Association of Governments in San Mateo County. So he works on transportation, energy, water, climate, and equity. And then he has his water hat on today. In his role, Kim staffs CCAG's resource management and climate protection and legislative committees. He's leveraging his leadership years in government to address climate transition, mitigation, and adaptation. So Kim has developed and vetted a scope of work for a laundry to landscape program in San Mateo County, and he'll be talking about that. But I think first up we have Justin. So Justin, if you'd like to grab, you have some slides, so if you want to grab screen. I will stop my share. So Justin, you can take it away, and I guess Kyle and Kim will comment.
Oh.
Okay.
Hey, Dennis, I can't hear you. Can everyone hear me? Okay,
I just
that's fine.
asked you to unmute. And
1 second, please.
Hopefully you can hear me, but go ahead and take the screen if.
Well, since others can hear me, I'm going to proceed. So my apologies if I interrupt anyone, and then I'll troubleshoot when I'm done speaking. Thank you for understanding. I heard everything up until the recording started, but if you can see my presentation, please nod because I cannot hear you. All right, thanks, Dennis. We'll mime our way through this presentation. So thank you, Dennis. My name is Justin Burks, Senior Water Conservation Specialist with Valley Water. I was gonna hand it off to, actually, no, I'm gonna hand it off to my colleagues because I can see you and I can tell when you can stop talking, but I'll hand it off to my colleagues on this panel to introduce themselves.
Oh, sure. I'm Kim Springer with the City County Association of Governments, and I think Dennis covered a lot of what my background is, and yes, I'm wearing my water hat today.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Ramey, Water Resources Specialist for BAWSCA. Dennis did a fabulous introduction, so no need to repeat. So go ahead, Justin.
And I stopped seeing lips moving, so thank you, Kim and Kyle, for introducing yourselves. So my goal today is to show you how graywater is an essential part of our collective and individual strategies as part of this drought response, and to share a little bit of a history of Valley Water's programs. All the photos in my short PowerPoint are from local graywater projects, and then I'll hand it off to Kim and Kyle to chime in about their programs and insights while I troubleshoot my audio challenges. But without further ado, when I say graywater, what do I mean by that? Graywater is lightly used water from a clothes washer, a bathroom sink, or a shower or bath. It's a decentralized reuse of water that most anyone can leverage, whether it's a bucket in their shower, a permanent and easy to install laundry and landscape system, or an advanced whole house graywater system. Valley Water's programs have been focused on laundry and landscape systems as they're one of the most accessible options for people to install. There's no permits required for them because there's no changes to the plumbing or electrical lines on a property. And they're and effectively, to install one of these systems on your own property, the primary need is that the clothes washer is near an exterior wall or above a crawl space. You have the right type of landscaping for it, and you're not adjacent to a riparian area. And how much water saved depends on how much water the landscape actually needs. You could produce an immense amount of graywater, but you don't have any landscaping, you're not going to benefit. And then like the same with the inverse, you could have a huge landscape area, but you never do laundry at your house because you go to a laundromat, you're not going to save water. So there's this balancing act of how efficient a clothes washer is and how much laundry the property actually does. Basically though, for every load or two of laundry, that's enough for a medium water use fruit tree or shade tree to be fully hydrated. And that's a significant resource when we're talking about a long-term drought situation. And if we want to protect trees regionally, we must advocate for graywater reuse, at least at the residential level. And lastly, this is a fantastic do-it-yourself project for handy people, and our rebate covers the amount of most of the equipment costs. So I encourage you all to visit watersavings.org where you can learn more about our graywater resources and other programs that Valley Water offers. We actually started this program back around shortly after the California Plumbing Code had first updated to allow installation of residential laundry and landscape systems without a permit. The Plumbing Code outlines specific system requirements, and our rebate program mirrors those requirements. We initially offered our rebates at only $100 per system, but we had increased that to $200 during the last drought. And we also enter cost sharing agreements with local cities and water agencies to increase it to $400 for customers in their respective service areas. However, even with that attractive incentive, we're still seeing challenges with attracting participants in these programs. So we had launched a direct installation pilot. In an 18-month period, we installed nearly as many systems as we did that point in history, the 7-year period that we'd offered a rebate, which is incredibly impressive. And even though the direct install program was not cost effective as a pilot, it did provide a lot of lessons learned that can be used in future program development. And one of the major findings from this pilot, in addition to doubling the historic participation, as I had mentioned, it was also effective at addressing multiple barriers at once. People could find equipment, they got a project design, they got installation assistance. It demonstrated that people want to install these systems when they have the resources available to help them do it. And more recently, we've upgraded to an online application system. We've created additional resources, including the example system illustration that was shown on the prior slide, a getting started with graywater FAQ, and it new modern messaging strategies. When we talk about barriers, knowledge is power. Greywater is a drought-proof water source that can irrigate large portions of your landscape by simply doing laundry as you normally would. And local leaders and water professionals installing these systems and promoting them just like they would with climate appropriate landscape projects they may already be participating in is going to be essential for Greywater to meet its potential. And in Santa Clara County, we estimate there may be over 300,000 properties that could potentially install one of these laundry to landscape systems. And with the expansion of ADUs throughout our communities, the impact can be even greater. And at about 17 gallons per person per day saved in a laundry to landscape system, this is an incredible amount of water that's underutilized. Other barriers are about addressing small behavioral changes, such as switching detergents to plant-friendly or biocompatible detergents, and understanding that every graywater system has a three-way valve, like shown in this photo. So if someone wants to run a load of bleach, they just turn that valve to send it to the sewer like it normally does, and then back to the landscape when they are using their normal detergent to irrigate their fruit and shade trees. It just gives people options, but they have to know that the options are available to them before they get confident and excited to install one of these systems themselves, regardless of the incentive amount. People also have concerns about microplastics and plant health, and I'll address that on the next slide. Finding professional installers can be really challenging. In addition to that, the pilot program, which included a professional installation training, we also have developed a list of landscape professionals, including who has experience installing graywater systems. And for do-it-yourselfers who can certainly install these types of systems themselves, sourcing all the necessary components and equipment can take a bit of time and effort, almost as much as installing the system itself, even though they're really just repurposed equipment that you can find. You just need to know where to look and what to call them. A couple years back, a San Jose State University student, Sarah Khosrow-Shahi, had completed a study called Assessing Laundry Landscape Graywater Systems and Graywater Quality Parameters in Santa Clara County. She leveraged our existing graywater program and also local connections to find participants in her study. She had focused on single-family homes in the area to evaluate soil and plant health for areas that have been irrigated by graywater for at least a year. And important note that all of our program participants have code compliant systems. So those were like some of the additional participants that she had found. And what was really not surprising to me was that there was no negative impact on soil health. And in fact, there was a positive impact on most plant health, where some of the plants demonstrated increased productivity, which was theorized to be associated with the slightly increased nutrient load in graywater sources. But what did surprise me was the high proportion of drought tolerant plants in these graywater irrigated landscapes. Because typically, like even with someone like me that thinks about graywater a bit, like I typically think about it for medium and high water using plants or for trees specifically. And the study showed that not only do plants respond very well to graywater, but there's also a very wide variability in the types of compatible landscapes for graywater systems. And so as agencies and water utilities promote and expand laundry landscape systems, this study just is more wind in our sails that it's an effective drought strategy to drought-proof landscapes throughout our communities. Valley Water's also developed a model water efficient new development ordinance. And one of the several provisions in that is a graywater ready element. So we had the fortune of connecting with a Central Coast Graywater Alliance group who were already doing similar efforts. We aligned some of our language for the specific provision to make systems more likely to be installed in new development. So though it doesn't require the installation of graywater systems, it does require stub outs, placement of certain elements like electrical outlets in a place that might be associated with where the clothes washer might be, which might be in a space more likely where the landscape's going to be, to make it more cost effective to ultimately install graywater systems. And then as we look ahead at Valley Water, we're looking to align this more with our landscape rebate program. Our landscape rebate program is a single program with one application that has over a dozen rebates from our well-known turf conversion rebates, but also our irrigation equipment rebates. So if someone's tearing out their lawn to install water-wise plants, why not just make it easy for them and have a single application where they can also get even more rebate funding to install a graywater system? They may have medium or high water use plants already on their property, and this provides a more of a turnkey solution for them to install their system. And also considering additional training opportunities, both for professionals and do-it-yourselfers to gain confidence and resources to install graywater systems, exploring about adding other graywater systems to our programs. So even though laundry and landscape systems are most accessible, branch drain systems, whole house graywater systems, those are going to save even more water. But that does require streamlining and clarifying permitting requirements, since those other types of graywater systems do require permits currently. And graywater has been around for over 20 years, but a lot of people don't know about it. Like, a lot of people still think you can't install rainwater capture, let alone graywater reuse. So the increase of public awareness through information campaigns, advertising, social media continues to be paramount for these novel but relatively straightforward ways of reusing water. Valley Water is currently developing a short animation promoting graywater for our social media channels that will be released later this fall. And lastly, system components need to be readily available. If we need to pursue regional strategies to get stores to have the appropriate inventory, that's going to be a key strategy to advancing graywater use. It's currently a catch-22 where a store is not going to carry a product that people don't ask for, but people don't know to ask for it if they don't know about the immense drought response potential of installing a graywater system in their home. And also, please keep an eye out for any recent or future webinars Valley Water offers to promote both graywater and our outdoor conservation programs. And here's my contact information. Visit watersavings.org to learn more, and I'm going to hand it off to my colleagues so I troubleshoot my speakers. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, good luck with the speakers, Justin. I'm sorry to hear that you can't hear us, because we're going to have a delightful conversation. Well, I think that was a great presentation. What did you think, Kyle? I mean, it's really great that Valley Water completed a direct install pilot for their program, and I'd really actually be interested to know sort of more lessons learned from Justin about that. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Well, I mean, Valley Water has always been kind of a leader in this space, especially when it comes to graywater. I do want to talk a little bit about the barriers of implementation that Justin brought up too, which makes some of these programs kind of difficult to manage and get like large participation rates. Because I think the upfront cost of these systems can be kind of costly for the homeowner, and then also who to call to actually do the installs unless you can do it yourself. So, I think a big part of the work that Kim and BAWSCA, CCAG, San Mateo and BAWSCA are kind of working on, and some of this information will be presented by Kim a little bit later, is trying to figure out how to dismantle those barriers, which is why we're kind of going through the pilot project to determine overall cost, what are the resources that we can offer to help boost participation, help people get more engaged. Because as the drought continues and as years become drier, I think reuse in general is where we're headed. And graywater is going to be a big part of that. So we certainly want to eliminate those barriers, gain additional participation in those programs, and then get people a little bit more excited about these on-site reuse systems.
Sounds good. All right, so I hear that Justin can hear again, so that's good news.
I can. It is good news. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, that's great. Should I move on to my presentation and then we can kind of work off of that? So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully this will work well. And so can you see my screen, or you just have it in presentation mode at this point?
So we can see it in presenter mode, Ken. but it's not quite full screen.
It's not quite full screen. Is it good enough or is it not? Let's see. I'm used to
Display
there
settings on top should give you.
Yeah. Share and a note. I'm not seeing the button that I'm used to finding here. So, let's see.
On the top of your screen, it says display settings.
Tell me when I'm getting close to it because I'm not seeing it.
Show
Your mouse is right
taskbar,
on it.
display settings, and slideshow.
Interesting. I usually have a swap presenter view button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there might be something under that, under display settings to the right of that. Oh, well.
Okay, I'm not. Let's see display settings. Okay, yeah, it's partially covered up for some reason. Is that better?
Yep.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you for that little delay in time there. So, so this is just a kind of a quick overview. It's only about 4 or 5 slides of the residential laundry landscape pilot program that we're talking about. And it's TBD because it's not funded at this point. It's a concept, and we've been going after funding and haven't received it yet. So let me move on. So, the approach to, what's basically what we've already talked about is it's a challenging but a very important program. And I think I just happened to receive my water bill today, and I'm just taking a look at, in the, driest time of the year, even with 2 people in my house, we're using about 90 gallons a day. And so much of that has to do with landscaping because in the, times of the year where I'm not doing any, watering and that kind of thing, we're down around 25 to 30 gallons per person today in this house because, we're pretty water efficient in as many things as we can do. So, it gives an idea of just how much we're talking about. Yeah, so it's an important program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some aspects of this program that we've been talking about without going through all the details in the pilot, but workforce development, trying to weave that in, developing content with the public in mind, and workshops and trainings, which is not a new concept. And then the idea to try and work with a consultant to drive it for several years just to get it established, because we don't have a deep program like this in San Mateo County at this point. So in terms of workforce development, we've been talking about piloting 10 homes and to use those pilots to train handy persons, gardeners, landscapers, kind of the smaller sort of, small organization, small company kind of folks, and try and get them motivated to help drive the program. We'd use the pilots also to develop content for outreach, although there is a lot around. Obviously, Valley Water has a lot and has offered to share, which I much appreciate, Justin. And if you look around on the web for cities, and I actually did a search of different cities and their water conservation programs, searching for laundry to landscape, and Santa Barbara is a city that has a very robust site and program, though with the same kind of challenges. Use that opportunity to identify challenges in installation, things that would come up that we need to be aware of, and then use that to develop and grow a local list of trained installers that the public can reach out to. And then, again, sort of developing, pushing the content. We want to sort of include other city and water district efforts, community focus groups, perhaps, to try and understand more about the barriers. We may know a lot, but would a focus group reveal some other things? For other programs that I'm involved in more on the energy side, focus groups have been really helpful in revealing. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of content out there that we can work on. And then build a website for us locally here. Definitely leverage the drought. This is probably not a fast return on investment in terms of the installation cost. So we really need to talk in terms of people being able to have the landscape that they want, and doing well by the environment basically. And then crosstalk with other conservation programs. When I've spoken to other cities and programs, somebody might come in wanting to do a laundry to landscape, but not do that, but pick up other, whether it be rain barrel or rainwater collection or other conservation efforts, they may pick up on that. So we definitely want to crosstalk with other programs in there. Workshops and training, push participation in workshops, continue to grow that list of installers that have been certified. Justin has a level 2 certification for these programs. So that training opportunity is available. And I think that that's a really great place to partner with BAWSCA on this. And obviously partner with environmental health. I think to a certain extent, if somebody said they wanted to do a laundry to landscape and they went to one of our cities, there may be some confusion even at the building counter about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And so, I think that, there's an opportunity for training at all levels and across the board. And, another point of this is you kind of pinpoint the training areas if you want to bring in communities, because as Justin mentioned, you need to be a certain distance away from water bodies, and then there's also acceptable groundwater levels that you'd be working with. So we need to be sure to target the right audiences in that way as well. And so that's kind of what I wanted to go over at this point about the program, and hopefully that in Justin's presentation will spur some conversation here. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. All right.
Okay, well, Justin, I guess as the just with the active program, I wondered if you had some top lessons learned.
I'm going to echo Kim's sentiment about the training at both from a bottom up and a top down level. So even though laundry landscape systems do not require a permit, having that knowledge at the permit check level is important and relevant. But I've had a lot of conversations with professional installers and even residents who were told trying to get a permit for a more advanced system that you couldn't do any kind of graywater system. You couldn't install dual plumbing even if you wanted to. And they had to work up the hierarchy to get the correct answer. I would imagine most people don't have that kind of energy and passion where they would just drop it and move on to other more accessible elements of their project plan. And then other lessons learned is, like I had said in my presentation, that people do want to install these systems. Our direct install program demonstrated that. It helps when we pay a lot of it up front, but it also is about the connection to the local workforce and the connection to resources and equipment. And there's definitely an opportunity for businesses to have more awareness of these systems. One challenge is that laundry and landscape systems typically are not off the shelf. You can go to a store and buy a rain barrel or a cistern at a specialty store, but you can't really do that with a laundry and landscape system because it's made out of components, and you're repurposing. You're basically repurposing components and redirecting your landscape, graywater from your clothes washer in your landscape. Another really important lessons learned is about the cost. So like Kyle had mentioned, there can be upfront costs that's significant to people. It's hard to find contractors, so that's going to increase the cost, right? Because they have a lot of demand for themselves. But also laundry and landscape system projects in isolation, they don't make a lot of money off of it because it's a lot of manual labor, and it takes a bit of planning for it. So they're going to be more cost effective for professional installers when you can incorporate it in a more turnkey fashion, either as a component to another landscaping project or a turf conversion project, that then when combined, it is going to be cost effective and it is going to generate cost effective water savings. So it's truly a win-win when you find opportunities to evaluate graywater opportunities as more of a holistic approach and a turnkey approach, to really leverage the significant potential of generating outdoor water savings in the Bay Area and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. I mean, that's definitely a toe in. So if we can get more of the landscape community and the gardener community on board with, on-ramping this kind of a program or this kind of a project into their landscape project, I think that's definitely a win-win. That's a good point.
Yeah, I have a question for Kyle. I mean, in terms of your research, what were the biggest barriers?
I think Justin touched on a lot of those. Initially, it's cost upfront to the customer and then receiving a rebate on the back end. And then also on the landscaper side, the project's not necessarily being cost effective as a standalone, which is why I think it's super smart that they went with, coupling it with maybe a larger landscape project, creating more of a incentive for, landscape professionals to actually do the install, or plumbers. Another thing too, for BAWSCA in particular, we have 26 member agencies who are generally the primary funders of our subscription programs. So getting buy-in from a majority of them to host a program such as this has been rather difficult, simply because it could require a lot of investment in actually developing the program, and then not seeing large enough participation rates to really drive that. So those have been some of the biggest barriers for us, and then really just information gathering, which is what we hope to come out of Kim's pilot project, is some of those questions answered, and then using also what Justin and his team have already created over at Valley Water to create a path moving forward, because eventually I think BAWSCA has it within our goals to have some type of offering for water reuse on site. In the meantime, we have created some other resources, Greywater resource hub on our webpage that kind of has a Greywater fact sheet for people to be directed to if they want to engage in that project, and then also where they can find local rebates either at the state level or in a different county that they may live in. So those are some of the steps that BAWSCA has taken in the meantime while we evaluate the subscription program that will hopefully be adopted by the majority of our member agencies.
And Kim, I just wanted to ask you about next steps and for your plan.
Well, for me, it's more about finding funding and at the same time, trying to stay on top of the changes. I mean, I think that Valley Water and others who are also exploring this, I think we all agree that with drought, the pressure is going to continue to increase. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, we went for some federal funding and didn't receive it. So, keeping our eyes open for grant opportunities and other funding, state or federal. That's what we're doing right now.
Well, great. I think we'll leave it there. We have actually some takes on basically concierge service for homes being visited and coming up with. Thanks for presenting this. I hope this is just the future of Greywater. I know there's actually even some market pressure we were talking about in Cal Water territories about new development. I mean, on the big scale, having like multi-family where they might want to start considering graywater systems because they're going to have to get down their water demand below kind of thresholds. So hopefully that will spur some more interest in this. Both, there's the single family house, but then there's multi-family buildings as well. Yeah, thanks for coming to Waterpalooza.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks
Sure.
very much, Dennis. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, and we'll continue